first talking about the series, we wanted to narrow it down. So, we wanted to do animals that were not the most well known to young children. And then we said, well, what if we only focus on endangered animals? And so that
Mhm.
we thought that was going to narrow it down a lot.
Unfortunately, that's getting
Unfortunately,
bigger.
Unfortunately, almost every animal on our planet is endangered.
Yeah.
As we talk about in our Wild Places book, 100 years ago, 2/3 of the planet was completely
Mhm.
wild, right? And now today, it's less than a third. Um,
And
and
quickly going away.
and
Yeah.
so, these animals have less and less space to survive and thrive,
Mhm.
and we
We just,
we cement everything. Right?
yeah.
So that's kind of the reason we approach these books, and also our work with Wild Tomorrow, which is actively rewilding space. And it's just such an important idea. And hopefully that can be something that is a model for how to do it in all places.
Welcome to the Adventures in Learning podcast. I am thrilled to introduce an author illustrator duo, Hayley and John Rocco. They have so many amazing books about animals and conservation. They're also going to be my travel companions on an upcoming trip to South Africa, and you're in for a real treat. Hayley and John, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us, Diane. This is fantastic. We're happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. I've been following you all for years, and you've inspired me with your deep conservation ethos. And I love the series of books you've got coming out. I've been following them. You've got sloths and pangolins and quokkas and axolotls. And this week there's a brand new book, and I can see it behind you, about a toucan.
Here, you got it? Okay.
I do.
Uh-oh. Hello, I'm a toucan.
Can you share a little bit about this book and sort of the whole series and what motivated you to start writing these books?
Yeah, so well, I'll start with the series. So we through the I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
When researching for Wild Places, The Life of Naturalist, David Attenborough, I was coming across a lot of information about all these endangered animals. And I was like, a lot of these animals don't get enough in coverage as far as their plights. And I wanted to connect young readers with these animals and let them have a conversation directly with the animal. I want to, our goal was really to create that connection.
She wants to be a modern day Dr. Dolittle, is what
I
it
totally get that. This is why I like
I
you
was a
so
dream as a
much.
kid. Yeah.
it all kind of got inspired by a quote by Jane Goodall,
Mhm.
who said, "We must speak for those who cannot speak for themselves." And
Yes.
we have a portrait that my teacher, Sal Catalano, from college, made, and we have it on our in our bedroom, and
So I've been looking at that for
it's
years,
a
every
portrait of
day.
Jane Goodall with that quote written on it.
But she's, of course, a hero, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
So that this series is definitely a tribute to that quote. And
and to that work. Um, so the hope through the series, you introduce, or the animals introduce themselves to the young readers. They tell fun facts about themselves. They're kind of engaging, asking questions. You find out why the animal is endangered, what people are, and why they're important or interesting. But then you also find out what people are doing to help, and we offer tips on how kids can help too. And so that's kind of, we wanted to give kids the power to feel like they can do something, because everyone has a voice.
And that sense of empowerment is so important. John, I can see you're flipping through the book. Do you
yeah,
have
doing page turns.
favorite illustrations in it? And how did you go about doing the research to sort of create these beautiful pictures?
Well, one of the things we try to do with every one of these books is go out and actually meet the animals, hopefully in the wild. And we did that for Sloth. Haley did that for
Pangolin.
Pangolin. We did it for Axolotl and Toucan. With Toucan, we did see a bunch of toucans both in Costa Rica and in Panama. But we actually got a lot of information from our local zoo. And we were able to contact, you were able to contact the woman who actually tends to the two toucans that
The
they
keel-billed
the
toucans.
keel-billed toucans that they actually have at the zoo. So we were able to interact with them very close behind the scenes,
Neat.
back where they feed and care for the animals.
We got to talk to the vet who works with them, but it really informed the voice for the toucan. I was having a difficult time trying to find the toucan's voice. So when you actually meet the animals or you see them and you see their behaviors up close and personal, it really
Just how they
really helps.
hop around is hysterical. How they just bounce around
I love that.
from branch to branch.
Do you have a favorite illustration?
Uh,
He loved illustrating this book in particular.
yeah, the toucan was fun to paint.
Well,
I
the
don't know,
colors
I just
beautiful.
I liked painting birds in general. So it was fun to show all the different, not all the different types, but many of the different types of toucans.
Oh, that's gorgeous. And we don't often think of a toucan as having different varieties because we sort of have just the stereotypical one we see in books
Exactly.
or on TV.
Right.
The Fruit Loops character.
Yes.
Or
Right.
usually it's the
Toucan Sam.
Toco toucan, which
Yeah.
is very distinguished, and one of the largest. I think for me, I like this series because it kind of shows what's happening. They're suffering from a lot of habitat loss,
Yeah, you can see the
but also
deforestation.
from the pet trade. So as you turn the page, the toucan is
Oh,
suddenly in a cage. Um, and that's, one of the page turn tricks illustrators can do, uh, to make it interesting and to kind of bring the point across, I guess.
no, absolutely. So you guys have done sort of a whole series of animals. How do you go about deciding which animal goes into the series?
Well, that's a fun question because the first two books were Pangolin and Sloth. Hello, I'm a Pangolin and Hello, I'm a Sloth. And mainly Sloth because I've always loved sloths. That was
Fair.
an easy shoe in. Um, but the pangolin because I learned that they were the most trafficked animal on Earth. And I was like, I don't know anything about pangolins. I mean, let alone the fact that they're the most trafficked animal on Earth. And kids should know about these they're sweet, harmless, just they're
They're adorable.
they're really adorable.
That's what she's getting at.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I'm like, how many
The way they curl up into a ball, or the way they, will wrap their tail around a handler who's, helping them.
Yeah.
It's really quite beautiful, and their scales are just gorgeous. I mean, spending a month drawing pangolins, and you'll appreciate the beauty and nature of just how their scales. And then you look at a pine cone, and it's like, oh, this is almost the same exact shape, almost the same texture of each of the pine cone.
A good craft idea
leaves
to accompany the book for
Oh,
sure.
I love that.
And decorate them.
But when we were first talking about the series, we wanted to narrow it down. So, we wanted to do animals that were not the most well known to young children. And then we said, well, what if we only focus on endangered animals? And so that we thought that was going to narrow it down a lot.
Unfortunately, that's getting bigger.
Unfortunately, almost every animal on our planet is endangered.
Yeah.
As we talk about in our Wild Places book, 100 years ago, 2/3 of the planet was completely wild, right? And now today it's less than a third.
And quickly going away.
And so, these animals have less and less space to survive and thrive. And we cement everything, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the the reason we approach these books, and also our work with Wild Tomorrow, which is actively rewilding space. And it's just such an important idea. And hopefully that can be something that is a model for how to do it in all places.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
guys know what animals are coming next in the series? I know we've got Toucan and Loris. Are there others in the works?
We have a long list of ones that we want to do.
Mhm.
Right now, we are tackling a bunch of other projects that we
But we
have
hope to
on the
continue.
yeah.
But yeah. Yeah.
So
Right now we're just kind of
we're
working on these other projects and
we're
then
busy on a sequel to all the books, and I'm doing a couple other books right now that have more of a social justice
Ooh.
theme.
Uh,
Yeah.
do tell a little bit about your new projects.
So I'm working on a book with the author Greg Neary, who actually came with us on our previous trip to South Africa.
Mhm.
We are working on a book called We Are All Apollo, and it is a big, significantly big book. It's a kind of a companion in a way to this book.
Oh, wow.
And it's about how African Americans in the space program move the needle on the civil rights movement. And it's called We Are All Apollo, the fight for equality, the
It's a
race,
long
the
one.
race for
Yeah.
space, the fight for equality, and the oh geez, I can't even remember the subtitle. Um, we've been working on it for almost
A few
5
years.
years.
Yeah.
It
Um,
feels like there's a lot that goes into a book like that. And that's super
yeah, a lot of
for me to be
research,
learning.
a lot of research, a lot of interviews with the actual subjects.
Mhm.
And it's sort of, we all think of Hidden Figures. Well, this one goes a lot deeper. And we've uncovered a lot of interesting stuff that was kind of whitewashed out of the NASA program. And the other book I'm working on is a book called The Promise of America. And it is the story of how we all came to be in this country and the contributions that all the different um,
Not
people
every
have
single.
made.
Yeah.
Um, but and what it all means, what it means to be an American in a lot
That
of ways.
feels very timely. And it's interesting. I was talking to my oldest daughter this morning about what's missing from our education. And a lot of it is that sense of civic understanding, of recognizing the inherent value that we all bring to the table. And this sounds like this book is really going to make a difference in terms of having that conversation.
Do you
I
have
hope
a
so.
cover of it somewhere?
I do. I think so. Hold on.
It's going to be very powerful. And it's
Oh.
I don't
Well,
know.
here's the paint. I don't know if this will be the final cover, but this is the painting that I did for the cover. Um,
Oh, that's beautiful. And if you're listening versus watching, you can see a young person wrapped in the American flag in front of the Statue of Liberty's torch, and then there's a variety of people from all different backgrounds in the picture behind her. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, the interiors are going to be done like murals,
I
um,
love it.
inspired by the 1930s WPA murals that were done. Everyone from Thomas Hart Benton to Diego Rivera did these incredible murals showing kind of the progress of America. So the style of design in the book is very much taken from that world. So that's another big project on my plate.
It sounds
Uh,
like you've got a few big ones. How about you, Hayley?
I have a few that I can't quite talk about yet, but I did just get back from Montana recently where I was doing some research and yeah, I'll just say that there might be some books coming out soon, hopefully, fingers crossed, about some of our American animals.
a hint, something I'm working on the drawing board right now.
Nice.
So just a little hint, but we want to kind of shed a light on the conservation work that's happening here in the United States as well. And
That makes a lot of sense. And, I'm looking behind you and I see Wild Places, and I fell in love with that book. I've
yeah.
always loved David Attenborough, and I thought you all did a really good job of capturing him. Jane Goodall is another hero of mine, and she sort of sits side by side in that canon. I've been fortunate enough to get to hear her speak a couple of times in the last year as she's been traveling for her 90th birthday and speaking out for conservation. She'd be a really good subject for a book, hint, hint.
I know there's so many books on her.
I don't think we've said enough, though.
That's true. That's true. And again, it's about introducing these icons to the next generation. So,
and then there are so many icons that we don't know about that deserve their place in that pantheon as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about children's book creators for conservation. You all sort of are the founders of that. Can you talk about where that came from and why it's important?
Well, it started after my first trip to South Africa with Wild Tomorrow. I actually discovered Wild Tomorrow while I was doing research for Hello, I'm a Pangolin, and they did this beautifully written write-up about pangolins and on their blog. And I was like, what is Wild Tomorrow? This seems, I just finished writing Wild Places, and it just seemed to fit a little too well with the messaging we were going with Wild Places, and how they are actively rewilding and restoring wildlife and working with communities to do just that, and also expand the wild over in one of the most biodiverse hotspots on Earth.
And actually creating a corridor between two larger game reserves where it was once all farmland.
And a nature preserve, I think that's already.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I looked at their website, and they had a volunteer experience, a volunteer trip, 2-week trip, and it was photography, and I'm also an amateur photographer, wildlife photographer. So I was like, this seems a little too good to be true. And so I reached out, and this was right at the end of the pandemic when ports were starting to open up again. So they were going to actually be able to do this trip. I think that was 2022. Yeah.
2022.
And John said, you gotta go. You gotta go. Let's make this happen. And so I went, and I experienced all of the amazing things that they do there, including dehorning rhinos, and they actually got to introduce us to a pangolin that had been rescued from the wildlife trade. So I got to talk to the ecologists who were working with them, and I came back from that trip so inspired. It had changed my life. It actually changed my life. And I said to John, we have to bring back more children's book creators. There's so many stories here. It's also it's just such an inspiring experience. We're kind of all about building community too, if we can within our children's book community, because we're also siloed. So we started Children's Book Creators for Conservation, and we started asking around and saying, hey, do you guys want to go on a volunteer trip? And so we started our first trip in 2023, and now we're going on a second one in the fall, September, together with you. Yay.
I'm still pinching myself that I get to join you all on this. It
Well,
feels like a dream come true.
Oh, well, we're so thrilled to have you.
One of the goals and the missions that we talked about when we created Children's Book Creators for Conservation is to kind of be the connective tissue between the readers and the conservationists in the field. What we know about conservation, we're learning as we go. But we're storytellers, and these conservationists have such incredible stories. But again, they're so busy with their heads to the ground, they don't have time to do PR about what it is they're doing. They're just doing
Right.
it, right?
Yeah.
So we thought, if we bring more storytellers, more artists to experience this conservation, then we can get those stories out into the world. And the second
And expose the children to those
Yeah,
stories.
and then
Yeah.
the second part of what we would love to do, and we are working with people on that right now, is to create actual programs that schools can use
Teachers' guides, really.
Absolutely.
for free, uh, that kind of show them conservation, and this is the model, and hopefully we can expand that to other places like Montana and things like that,
Yeah.
um, where we provide the content and we're working
And
with
the connections.
with people that actually know what they're doing when it comes to creating curriculum materials for schools.
Well, we're very fortunate because we are working with the associate dean of teacher education at University of Rhode Island. She came up to us at an event and said, I want to get involved. How can I help?" And she's rallied 8 other teacher educators, both at URI and the University of Tennessee, they're putting it together now. And we're going to use Wild tomorrow as kind of the model of how they're tackling those teachers' guides, but we want to make them free and accessible to everyone nationwide, but also make it even like accessible to underserved schools and communities,
Absolutely.
because curriculum is expensive and there's a lot that goes it goes with that, I guess. So we're kind of learning and figuring things out as we go, but we're really excited to have this team just
she doesn't do anything
donating their
halfway.
time.
No, absolutely not.
You know?
And I was thinking one of the things I'm hoping to do is to be able to help tell those stories and to invite classrooms and kids to follow along with us for free. And so if I can help you in that curriculum piece, if I can help in capturing stories while I'm there, I am more than happy to help put together the reels and the short videos that we can use to
That'd be
supplement the
amazing.
curriculum, because that would be something we could absolutely add into that. And I would love to help with that.
That would be incredible. That's a link we're missing for sure.
It's
Right?
all about the storytelling, and it's
Yeah.
helping kids to be able to follow along and to feel part of it. And whenever I've been fortunate enough to travel, whether it was going to Antarctica with my dad a couple of years ago, or even a year ago,
Oh,
I was
wow.
in Australia and New Zealand. That's part of what I was trying to do, was to talk to the conservation people, talking to the zookeepers and the veterinarians and the scientists who are leading these expeditions, and then sharing that with kids and with families, because I'm a kid. I want to know these things. And I'm like, if I want to know them, I guarantee there's some child out there who is asking why or how or what can I do or can I be that?
Exactly. That's exactly right. We couldn't be more on the same page there. And it's so exciting to actually see what's happening, boots on the ground, day in and day out. And these veterinarians and these ecologists, they're living a really exciting life. And I don't know that kids get to see that or are as exposed to how exciting that kind of work can be, especially, you know what I mean? Like if you're
Yeah.
seeking adventure, it's out there, and you can participate in that adventure with people who are doing good in the world. And I think that's kind of, I don't know.
And we often think about like STEM and STEAM careers as being things in a laboratory. When you think about animals, what can you do? You can be a veterinarian. And
Mhm.
so much more that you can do, and more than I certainly knew about when I was in school. So the more we can sort of expose kids to look at these possibilities,
Yeah,
if you love animals, there's this whole mess of stuff you can do to help make a difference. And so the more we can do for that, I think the better.
exactly.
Absolutely. I
Absolutely.
I remember when I was in school, I I, I was already going into my second year of college before I realized, oh, illustration can actually be a career.
And we're really glad you found that career.
Didn't even think of it. I was
Yes,
living
we
with
are.
an illustrator, and And I was like, wait, this is what you do? Um, so yeah, exposing young minds to all the different options
Hmm.
and how you can kind of make your own career these days if you figure out like what it is, if you can find that magic, you know, soup of like,
Yes.
what I love to do and
Hmm.
figure out, oh, how can I turn this into what I do for a living? And you know, it's like you were a kid, you wanted to be Dr. Dolittle, you wanted to
I did.
talk to animals, and you also love children's books, and now this is like what you're doing. It's amazing.
Quite literally a dream come true.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I think all three of us haven't exactly followed a straight career path. It's been spiraled and all over the place. And I think that's important to recognize too, is that you find that passion and then you see how you can use it. I mean, I got to ask John,
Yeah.
what did you create at Epcot?
Oh,
The
well,
Disney
lots.
girl in me is dying to know.
So when I first started working for Walt Disney Imagineering, I think it was back in, I want to say 1994, and have done stuff on and off for probably the next 10, 11 years. Um, you know, there's always a rotation of things. So some of the things I worked on are probably no longer there. I don't know. I haven't been in a while.
Right.
Um, the last time I worked for them was back in 2005 or six. So one of the things I worked on helped revamping the ride that's inside the sphere.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I don't know what that is now, but when I worked on it last, it was kind of this, you know, create your own future.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
and you it captured video of your face and put it on this animation based on decisions that you make along the ride of like how you want to live. I
It's kind of
worked
like the Jetsons, if I'm
Yes.
remembering correctly. I mean, I
no,
shouldn't say that because
another
It's
Disney.
thing
okay.
worked on was a big one was Mission Space,
Oh, yeah.
which had, you know, the ride, and then there was like a space race was this thing that you could do afterwards after you went on the ride. It was this big like video game thing. Basically what I was working on mostly at uh, Walt Disney Imagineering was anything that was projected, anything that was on a screen, anything, you know. So we had two sort of creative directors, and one was the creative director of like the visual space and the physical space. Like
Yeah.
what does this room look like? What does the cars that you sit in look like? And then anything on a screen or projected was something that I was overseeing, and we did a lot of different things. You know, it was an interesting job because it was so blue sky, right? You start off
Right.
a project and you're sitting in a room with three or four other designers, and they say, okay, we've got this massive budget and we have this space and this is the sponsor. What are we going to do? And you start coming up with things based on the latest technologies or what have you, and then it gets kind of dwindled down and into like our budget got smaller and smaller, and then you figure out what it is that works, where you can move people through and have a good experience. So there's theme park design is really interesting in that way, as opposed to museum design, where someone could spend as long as they want in front of something
Right.
created. And I've done both, but specifically with the theme park design, you need to, you know, keep the line short and keep people moving through and
Keep
make
it entertained.
make sure that you know 2 to 6 minutes or whatever the ride length is worth that half an hour that they stood in line.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, it was a great gig. I enjoyed it so much. But again, you know, I'm the type of person that has enjoyed many different jobs,
Of
careers
course.
over the course of my life. And those have greatly varied, everything from working on a commercial shellfishing boat to, you know, being an art director on a animated feature film to making books. And I think what I love about making books is I grew up in a house filled with books, you know, the importance of books. Um, and there's something to creating that thing, that story that you're going to design as one person or two people, not including, of course, the publishers and the editors and the art directors, but you're not working in a team of like 300 people.
Right.
They're
And there's
all
that
working towards.
creative freedom.
Yeah, there is something to be said about having your voice ring true in your final product, that you can get in creating books that you can't get in those other kind of projects.
Yeah, you can stake claim over it. It's your idea, it's your baby, and
See it
then
to
that's
fruition.
it's pretty incredible to hold that concept in your hand
That is pretty
after it's all
amazing.
done.
All right, last question for today.
Yeah.
What brings you hope?
Children.
Absolutely.
Children. I mean, and I'm going to speak on your behalf. She was recently went to Washington, D.C. to speak to our senators and congressmen about the Endangered Species Act.
For advocating with,
and she reached out to some local librarians who we had just done some school visits with here in Rhode Island and said, do your kids want to write letters for these Congress people? And like within days, she had hundreds of letters
for each congressman. And I could just
with drawings and
I was able to hand deliver those.
That's
to the
amazing.
Congress people. And actually, sorry, I kind of jumped over you
that's
there.
okay. It's your story. I'm just telling it.
But it was kind of kismet because defenders had called me and said, do you want to come to Washington, D.C. for this fly-in for this big rally to advocate for the Endangered Species Act? I said, absolutely. Whatever. What can I do? I'll be there. And so reached out to those librarians immediately, said, will your kids be interested in this? Of course, the librarians were like, absolutely, they're going to. And we had just visited, so they had endangered animals top of mind. And the kids really just came through. But the rewarding part and the part that really gave me hope, I mean, I think it was the first time I really felt a lot of hope this year. Was when Senator Whitehouse, he led his speech during the press conference and he held the letters up and he said, we're doing this for the kids, for the next generation. If you care about your children, you're going to protect the Endangered Species Act. Something, I mean, of course I'm paraphrasing.
No, but that's awesome that
but it was just
tangible.
And knowing that those kids will get to see that video and see the connection and that their voices were heard, beyond rewarding. I can't really put that into
No,
words.
and for us as children's book creators, these are the people we speak to, the kids, and I mean, look back. I don't know when the show was on. Do you remember Flipper?
Yes.
Do you remember how people felt about dolphins and porpoises before Flipper?
I sure do.
Just another fish. Who cares? They get caught in nets or whatever. And then that show comes out, and suddenly it changes perspective. It changes people's opinions. It changes, so
it's like
creating
whale songs too.
Yeah.
Creating change, creating awareness, and trying to connect people back to nature, because we've become so disconnected from it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's part of what we're all trying to do today, is to reconnect people to the wild, to nature, to those places that are becoming smaller and smaller, but are still vital to who we are as human beings.
And nature is calling to us all. I mean, that sounds so corny, but
it's true.
When you're stressed and you have anxiety, I mean, or what we do, we go outside, we take our shoes off, we walk around on the lawn, and we just take in the trees and the birds. And
you don't have to give away all my anxiety.
No, I share it, John. And there are definitely
But it's just
places I go and walk for exactly that reason. There's
exactly.
an old fallen down log tree. It's a nurse log that I call the whale because that's
I
what it looks
love
like.
that.
And
Yeah.
whenever I'm feeling down, I go find that tree and lay on it. So I get it.
Okay.
I love that. That's a great connection story. Absolutely.
So yes, we all need that. And I'm looking forward to connecting with the two of you and to sharing adventures from Wild Tomorrow in South Africa.
Oh,
Yes.
we're so excited to have you on board. This is going to be so
Soon.
much
It's
fun.
coming up.
Yes, it's coming. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on the Adventures in Learning podcast today. And I will drop links into the show notes so that you can follow all of John and Hayley's work.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Diane.
Diane.